Sam Bass, the man who robbed the Union Pacific. Welcome, folks, to another deep dive into the legends of the Wild West. Today, we're peeling back the layers of history to reveal the thrilling and downright outrageous life of Sam Bass, a man who turned from a humble orphan into one of the most notorious outlaws ever to roam the dusty trails of Texas. So, saddle up, because this story is packed with more gold, gunfights, and betrayals than a Clint Eastwood marathon. Chapter 1: Humble Beginnings. Sam Bass wasn't born with a six-shooter in one hand and a bag of gold in the other. No. He came into this world on July 21st, 1851, in the small town of Mitchell, Indiana. Now, Mitchell wasn't exactly the Wild West, but it did have its fair share of excitement. Unfortunately, that excitement didn't come with a happy ending. By the time Sam was just a young teenager, both of his parents had passed away. He was orphaned and left to fend for himself. Not exactly the fairy tale start, right? Sam first tried his luck as a cowboy, wrangling cattle and dreaming of the riches that seemed to be just around the next bend. But, as it turns out, cowboying didn't exactly make you rich, it just made you tired and dusty. So, he switched gears, tried his hand at freighting, and even spent some time chasing the glittering dreams of the California gold rush. But all he found was more dirt and disappointment. And so, like any good outlaw to be, Sam Bass decided that if fortune wasn't going to come to him, he'd just have to take it for himself. Chapter 2: The Birth of an Outlaw. Now, here's where things start to get interesting. You see, Sam Bass wasn't a bad guy, at least, not at first. He was just a guy who got tired of playing by the rules in a game that was clearly rigged against him. So, what's a fella to do? Well, if you're Sam Bass, you start by robbing stagecoaches. And not just any stagecoaches, no, sir. Sam went after the Wells Fargo coaches, the armored trucks of their day. His first big score? A whopping $10,000. That's right, $10,000, which in today's money would be enough to buy you a small island or a really nice yacht. Suddenly, Sam Bass was living the high life of booze, women, the works. But he wasn't just in it for the cash, Sam was in it for the thrill. And once you get a taste of that outlaw life, it's hard to go back. But stagecoaches were just the warm-up act. The real show was about to begin. Because what's more thrilling than robbing a stagecoach? Robbing a train, of course. Chapter 3: The Great Train Robbery. Imagine the scene. It's a balmy evening on September 18, 1877. The stars are just beginning to twinkle in the sky over Big Springs, Nebraska. The air is thick with anticipation, but not the good kind, the kind that sends a chill down your spine because you know something big is about to go down. The Union Pacific train, known for carrying valuable cargo, was chugging along the tracks, minding its own business. But little did the crew know, this night would be anything but routine. In the shadows, hidden among the tall prairie grass, lay Sam Bass and his gang, ready to pull off what would become one of the most daring and lucrative train robberies in Wild West history. Now, this wasn't a haphazard operation. No, Sam Bass was a man with a plan, a very specific plan. He knew this train was carrying something special, $60,000 in gold coins, freshly minted and sparkling like the eyes of a prospector who just struck pay dirt. That's over $1 million today, folks. The kind of money that could turn a ragtag group of outlaws into legends. The train rumbled closer, the sound of its wheels clattering against the tracks filling the night air. As it approached, the gang made their move. They had already loosened a rail, forcing the train to stop dead in its tracks. The engineer, completely unaware of what was about to happen, brought the train to a halt, thinking it was just another routine check. But before anyone could figure out what was going on, Sam Bass and his gang were upon them, guns drawn and faces grim. They wasted no time. The gang quickly overpowered the crew, forcing them to open the express car where the real treasure was stored. Now, let's pause here for a moment. Imagine the scene. The express car is a small, cramped space filled with bags of gold coins, each one gleaming under the dim light of a lantern. The smell of iron and oil fills the air, and the tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Sam Bass steps inside, his boots clanging against the wooden floor, his eyes locking onto the bags of gold like a predator spotting its prey. This is it, the moment he's been waiting for. Sam Bass and his gang begin stuffing the bags of gold into whatever sacks and pockets they have, working quickly but carefully. They know they don't have much time before the authorities catch wind of what's happening. But the loot is heavy, and there's only so much they can carry. Even in a moment of triumph, there's a limit to how much fortune you can physically bear. Despite the sheer volume of gold in the car, the gang managed to take off with $60,000 worth of coins. And let's be clear, this wasn't your everyday heist, this was a haul that would go down in history. But Sam Bass wasn't just thinking about the money, he was thinking about the legend he was crafting with every coin he stuffed into his sack. With the gold in hand, the gang made a quick exit, disappearing into the night like ghosts. They were light on their feet, moving swiftly through the darkness, leaving behind nothing but the stunned and bewildered train crew. By the time the authorities arrived, Sam Bass and his gang were long gone, vanished into the vast Nebraska wilderness. Now, this robbery was a game changer. Not only did it make Sam Bass one of the most wanted men in the country, but it also cemented his place in the pantheon of Wild West outlaws. The sheer audacity of the heist, robbing a train of that much gold and getting away with it, captured the public's imagination. Newspapers from coast to coast blared headlines about the robbery, turning Sam Bass into a household name practically overnight. But what happened to all that gold, you might ask? Well, that's where the story takes a twist. Despite the massive haul, the gang's fortunes didn't exactly improve. You see, being on the run isn't cheap, and the costs of staying one step ahead of the law quickly ate into their newfound wealth. The loot was divided among the gang members, but it didn't last long, because, as it turns out, living like an outlaw is expensive business. Sam Bass and his gang spent the next several months dodging the law, moving from town to town, always looking over their shoulders. The gold they had risked their lives for slowly trickled away, spent on bribes, supplies, and the constant need to stay on the move. Chapter 4: The Game of Cat and Mouse. The Texas Rangers were hot on his trail, but Sam was as slippery as a greased pig at a county fair. Every time they thought they had him cornered, he'd vanish into the wilderness, leaving them empty-handed and frustrated. The newspapers loved it, of course. Sam Bass wasn't just a criminal, he was a folk hero, a real-life Robin Hood who thumbed his nose at the authorities and got away with it. But let's not get too carried away. Sam wasn't robbing from the rich to give to the poor, he was robbing from the rich to give to himself. Still, in a world where the little guy always seemed to get trampled, people loved the idea of someone like Sam sticking it to the bigwigs. Chapter 5: Betrayal in Round Rock. All good things must come to an end, and for Sam Bass, that end came in the dusty little town of Round Rock, Texas. By now, the Texas Rangers were pulling out all the stops to catch him, and they got a lucky break when one of Sam's own men, Jim Murphy, turned informant. That's right, folks, Sam Bass was about to be betrayed by one of his own. The Rangers set a trap. They knew Sam and his gang were planning to rob the Williamson County Bank, so they waited for him to show up. And show up he did, strutting into town like he owned the place, completely unaware that his days were numbered. The shootout that followed was as wild as you'd expect. Bullets flew, dust clouds kicked up, and when the smoke finally cleared, Sam Bass was lying in the dirt with a bullet in his back. He didn't die right away, though. Sam was tough, too tough to go down that easy. He held on for 2 more days, long enough to know he'd been betrayed, long enough to reflect on the life he'd lived. He died on July 21st, 1878, his 27th birthday. And just like that, the legend of Sam Bass came to an end. Or did it? Outro. So, there you have it, folks, the life and legend of Sam Bass, the Wild West's gold-robbing, gunslinging ghost. If you enjoyed this tale of rebellion and revenge, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss another deep dive into the legends of the Wild West. And remember, life may not always be fair, but that doesn't mean you can't ride your own trail. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep your boots dusty and your spirits high.